Weak men are not always poor. They are not always soft. They are not always quiet or afraid. No, sometimes they sit on thrones. Sometimes they wear suits that cost more than your rent. Sometimes they speak loudly on stages, command attention with titles, and fool entire crowds with their charm. But to the trained eye, to the psychological strategist, these men are not powerful. They are fragile. Their strength is borrowed, temporary, cosmetic. Because true strength, as Machiavelli understood, is not how you act when you are admired. It's how you behave when you are denied. When the crowd walks away. When the pressure mounts. When the mask cracks. That is when the man underneath is exposed, and what you often find is not a lion, but a panicked child, desperate to preserve the illusion that is in control. You see, the weak man is not defined by lack of physical force or a passive voice. He's defined by the compulsions he cannot hide. He's defined by how he responds to 3 psychological stress tests: loss of status, absence of validation, and confrontation with reality. And most men fail all 3. They don't even realize they are being tested. But every social interaction is a battlefield for the insecure. And a Machiavellian strategist watches not the words, but the cracks in behavior. The moment the performance slips. The moment emotion betrays their frame. Because no matter how well a man postures, weakness always leaks through his habits. The first exposure comes when the man feels the loss of control, of position, of psychological dominance. This is where the trait of overcompensation through dominance rears its head. The weak man doesn't feel safe unless he feels in control, so he will try to dominate every room. He speaks more than necessary, not because he has something valuable to say, but because silence terrifies him. Silence means reflection. Silence reveals insecurity. So he fills it with noise, bragging, commanding, interrupting. He sees disagreement as disrespect. Questions as threats. He flexes status, facts, and aggression like a shield, but that shield is made of paper. Because underneath, he's afraid that someone smarter, more composed, more indifferent to power will outshine him. And when that happens, when a quiet man enters the room and speaks with calm confidence, the overcompensator crumbles. He panics. He escalates. He exposes himself by reacting emotionally to someone who never even raised their voice. The Machiavellian doesn't meet this man with resistance. He meets him with neutrality. Because neutrality is like acid to the insecure. They need resistance to validate their fight. They need applause to justify their dominance. So when they receive neither, they implode. The moment their words don't land, the moment their dominance isn't acknowledged, they begin to spiral. And in that spiral, they reveal the truth: their power wasn't real. It was a crutch, a mask, a fragile illusion held together by nothing but insecurity. The second exposure is subtler, but even more revealing. It shows itself in men who appear friendly, supportive, agreeable. But behind the smile lives a darker truth: validation hunger. This is the man who cannot stand on his own. He doesn't chase power, he chases approval. And he will sell everything to get it. He will flatter the powerful. He will silence his own opinions. He will change his beliefs based on who's watching. He is a shapeshifter, not because he's clever, but because he's terrified of being disliked. He will never stand against the crowd. He'll always mirror it. He lacks the spine to offend, the integrity to be isolated. And to the untrained eye, he looks kind, cooperative, even humble. But to the Machiavellian observer, he is the most dangerous kind of weak, because he doesn't know he is. This man cannot be trusted under pressure. When values collide with social pressure, he betrays his values. When loyalty demands silence, he chooses attention. When leadership requires unpopularity, he collapses. Because his sense of self is external. He does not ask, "What is right?" He asks, "What will they think of me if I say this?" The Machiavellian watches how this man reacts when someone else becomes the center of attention. Does he withdraw? Does he insert himself? Does he agree more than usual? This hunger is not innocent. It's desperate. It drives men to conform, to manipulate through kindness, and ultimately, to become pawns in someone else's game. A man ruled by validation will betray you with a smile, apologize with tears, and do it again the next time applause is on the line. And then there is the final, and most brutal, behavioral reveal: emotional instability under failure, rejection, or pressure. This is the absolute undoing of the weak man. Because all men wear masks when things are going well. The real test comes when things fall apart. Watch what happens when he's rejected publicly. When he fails in front of others. When a woman he wants loses interest. When a deal he brags about collapses. Some will rage. Some will sulk. Some will disappear into self-pity. But all will reveal their true psychological architecture: shaky, shallow, and reactionary. They were never built for resistance. They were built for reward. And when reward turns to ridicule, they unravel. They lash out at those around them. They attack the world. They look for enemies. Or worse, they start broadcasting their pain in the hope that someone will rescue them. But the Machiavellian knows, no one is coming. And a man who cannot stand in silence, in pain, in solitude, cannot stand at all. This kind of man is dangerous in leadership, in relationships, in any environment that requires long-term composure. Because he is not governed by reason. He is governed by emotion. And emotion, when ungoverned, will always seek control through chaos. He doesn't intend to destroy, but he does, unconsciously. Because his mind cannot tolerate unpredictability. He needs to feel in control. And when he isn't, he makes everyone else feel his instability. He poisons teams, relationships, and systems, not because he's evil, but because he's broken. This is why Machiavelli warned rulers: do not fear the loud man, the rich man, or the powerful man. Fear the man whose identity depends on the approval of others. Fear the man who cannot be calm when disrespected. Fear the man who believes dominance is strength and validation is love. Because that man is the easiest to bend, the fastest to break, and the first to betray when the winds change. So how do you protect yourself from weak men? You don't confront them. You don't fix them. You identify them. You watch. You listen. You place pressure, is subtle, strategic, and you let the behavior rise. The louder the overcompensator, the more fragile his ego. The more agreeable the validation addict, the less you can trust his loyalty. The more unstable the emotional reactor, the more dangerous he becomes under stress. You don't need revenge. You need distance. Because once a man shows you that he cannot lose without collapsing, cannot be alone without panicking, cannot disagree without trembling, you have seen the truth. And power begins not in confrontation, but in recognition. To expose a weak man, all you need to do is watch.